Hare Krishna. Today we will be discussing chapter 2, verses 18, 19, and 20. Verse 18. Antavanta ime deha nityasya ukta sharirinaha anasino aprameyasya tasmadyuddhasva bharata. Translation. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. So it's saying the material body is sure to come to an end, and the material body belongs to the indestructible, immeasurable, eternal living entity. So the living entity or soul is indestructible, it is immeasurable, and it is eternal. So Prabhupada makes two very important, of course, among all the important statements, two very important ones. First one is saying that the minute particle of the whole spirit, which is Atma, acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. Because urdhvam gacchanti sattvastha, madhya tishtanti rajasa, adho gacchanti tamasa. So based on the nature of work, we will get the corresponding type of body. So religious principles, so dharma or karma, right? So so there are three types of activities. So first there is vikarma, then there is karma, and then there is akarma. So vikarma is work which is done against religious principles. Karma is work done in conjunction with religious principles, and akarma is that which does not belong to both those categories and is that of devotional service or to the Supreme Lord. So here Prabhupada is saying, so observance of religious principles should be utilized. That people should be aware of what is karma, what is vikarma, and live their life accordingly, and not live a very blind life, because that body that we will get will be dependent on the type of activities that we do in our life. So religious principles specifically should be utilized. Okay, now last part of the purport, he says body itself is unimportant. It is the spirit soul which maintains the body. So Arjuna is advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily considerations. So this is also very important for us, because we are trying to act on the platform of the spirit soul, knowing that we are servants of Krishna, that we should serve him. But many a times we are faced with challenges because of material bodily considerations. And Prabhupada is saying here is that we should not sacrifice the cause of dharma. That means that we should not sacrifice bhakti for material bodily considerations. So material bodily considerations can be innumerable, right? Can be many. Could be because of our immediate body, immediate mind, our family situation, our society situation, our job, etc., etc. There could be multiple considerations, but the whole point is that we should not sacrifice bhakti for material bodily considerations, which is the first two aspects of sharanagati: anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. So we should give up those material bodily considerations which are not favorable to bhakti, and not succumb to those and give up on our bhakti. And give up doesn't mean that we just leave bhakti and go off, right? But like going down from the current standard of practice, diluting our practices, the philosophy, etc., etc. All of this is sacrifice. We are sacrificing the cause of Sanatana Dharma. So we should note, while body is the vehicle, body cannot itself become the impediment. So it is the vehicle for taking us across this material platform, universe, and then going back to Krishna, because it is the body only through which we have to do bhakti in the initial stages, in the beginning. So bodily considerations cannot become an impediment for us to follow dharma, or the supreme dharma, Sanatana Dharma, which is bhakti. Okay, so these two important points from this purport. Verse 19. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubauto na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. And some very interesting points in short purport, but very important points. First thing Prabhupada is saying, nothing happens to the living entity. Why? Because the jiva is, the atma is spiritual, and only the body is affected. Now, but we are so much in this bodily consciousness that we must so much think that we are the body, that it is as good as the soul being affected, right? When something happens to the body, like Prabhupada gives this example of how much a person is attached to his car, so much he will suffer when there is something which happens to the car. So if somebody is not very attached, then he's not very affected by that. But if somebody is very attached, then it's as good as something happened to himself, his own body. So like this, though nothing happens to the soul, but because it's of the proportion of our attachment to the body, we get affected to that extent. And that is why, as one progresses in spiritual life, the affection to the body keeps on reducing to the bare minimum, just for maintenance of body and soul together. And so then, even if there are problems, this jiva is not affected by it, and we continue. One can continue his devotional activities irrespective of the situation of the body, like we have seen in specifically in Srila Prabhupada and so many other great devotees, spiritual masters, etc. And then there is this whole discussion about okay, that the body is not affected, um, only body is affected and nothing happens to the soul, so let's encourage killing of animals. No. Then Prabhupada says, Ma himsyat sarvani sarvabhutani, never commit violence to anyone. So, and this is also jiva himsa. This is one of the amongst the anarthas that we have. This is one of the aparadhas, jiva aparadha, jiva himsa. So, and Prabhupada elsewhere also talks about what real non-violent violence is. Real violence is also to not give somebody the path of devotional service. So, and that is also jiva himsa. So, not only that we should not commit like gross violence, but we should also not commit the real violence, which is to not give one the path of bhakti. And in this context specifically, okay, just because body is affected and body is killed and it's not eternal, it doesn't mean that we go on killing animals to satisfy our tongue. However, Arjuna is engaged in killing for the principle of religion. So this is more superior than basic principles like non-violence. So we should not think that, okay, so since killing is not permitted or not is encouraged, so then no type of killing should exist. No. Prabhupada clarifies that also for the principle of religion, for a higher reason, lower dharma can be rejected or given up. Right, like more important than non-violence, which is a lower principle, is to keep up the principle of dharma. And elsewhere also in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada talks about this non-violence, and he says actually if one has to become really non-violent, not just externally, one must become humble and prideless. Humble means that actually, okay, I'm servant of Krishna, there is no other position, and that is the greatest position, but I'm still a servant and I should be humble, not carried away by my material designations and position, wealth, etc., etc. So that is only if we become humble can one become non-violent. So there are three steps Prabhupada mentions here. First is one has to become humble and prideless, then he becomes non-violent, then he learns tolerance. So it's important to understand that lower principles are important but cannot supersede or override higher principles. Right? So, and for the sake of dharma, Arjuna is encouraged here by Krishna to fight. Okay, though this is verse 19. Verse 20 is very interesting. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन्नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, primeval. he is not slain when the body is slain. So in verse 18, Krishna first says the body is sure to come to an end. Now he's in more detail describing the qualities of the soul. So it's no birth, no death, eternal, unborn, ever existing, and primeval. Primeval means very, very old. And he is not slain when the body is slain. So a lot of very important points to understand about the soul. First thing Prabhupada says is soul does not undergo changes like the body. We understand body undergoes six kinds of changes. Soul does not undergo any of these changes because soul is spiritual. Now, second thing Prabhupada mentions, soul has no past, present, or future. And he says why? Because he has no birth. So which means that our sense of past, present, and future is because there is birth, death, and again birth, and so on and so forth. So even in the spiritual world, it is said that there is no influence of time, meaning that this negative influence of time which destroys everything in course of time, it doesn't exist, and that doesn't exist for the soul as well. And even the spiritual world, that doesn't exist. So it is said that there is no past, present, and future. Now, does that mean that there is no yesterday, there is no today, there is no date, there is no night? No. So there is day and night. Of course, this is a very different topic which we will not get into right now. Next point Prabhupada mentions is from Katha Upanishad. He says the soul is full of knowledge. Soul is full of knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge that he is actually part and parcel of Krishna. He is full of knowledge. Also, he is full with consciousness. He's full with consciousness. So the consciousness is that we are servants of Krishna. But Prabhupada says that the consciousness is forgetful. Now, how does the consciousness become forgetful? When we come in touch with the material world, with the material nature, the consciousness becomes forgetful. And so the whole process of bhakti is to revive this lost consciousness or revive our real nature, which we have actually forgotten. So we have just forgotten. It's not that it doesn't exist. It is there, but we have forgotten. Then there is another verse from Katha Upanishad, Anoraniyam Mahato Mahyam, where Prabhupada is saying that one who has become free from material desires and lamentations can understand the glories of the soul by the grace of Krishna. Now, what do we mean by understand the glories of the soul? Now, these things are being mentioned, that the soul does not undergo changes, soul has no past, present, or future, soul is full of knowledge, soul is full with consciousness. Now, but one cannot understand, meaning realize this, unless one comes to the platform of na sochati na kankshati. Brahmabhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. Samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim lavate param. So at that Brahmabhuta stage, we can actually understand by the grace of Krishna, and it is not our own endeavor. By the grace of Krishna, one can understand the glories of the soul, which means that one can understand how nice soul is in such a nice position of being servant of Krishna, and madbhaktim lavate param. Then we'll get pure devotional service. Right? So, in summary, we need to understand that we are qualitatively one with the Lord. But in spite of all these beautiful qualifications of the soul, we can understand how badly we are stuck in this material world because we don't realize any of this. We can't realize that the soul is full of knowledge. We can't realize that the soul is full of consciousness. We can't realize that the soul has a real nature which we have forgotten. None of this we can realize. So Maya is so powerful that this forgetfulness of our real nature, actually this was one of the first things that Brahma creates in this material world as part of the creation. In Bhagavatam we discussed this, that he first created this avidya, this forgetfulness of the real nature, because otherwise how can we try to enjoy independent of Krishna? For us to be able to try and enjoy independent of Krishna, we need to forget who we really are. So though the soul is actually so great, being part and parcel of Krishna, because of this forgetfulness, because of this material attachment, we have forgotten and we are badly stuck. So that is why Prabhupada used to keep repeating this: you are not body, you are spirit, soul. And devotees used to wonder why Prabhupada is repeating this so many times, because we don't get it. Because we are so much engrossed in bodily consciousness that we don't get this point that we are actually soul. And that is the reason why even many practicing devotees, like devotees experience fear and all kinds of material emotions connected to the body without realizing that this body is anyway going to die one day. Right. So this knowledge, though, is ABCD, is very important that we actually come to this platform, because otherwise, actually, real bhakti cannot start. So what we are trying to do now, at least I can talk about myself, is trying to practice bhakti so that there is purification, so that we can come to the pure stage when our real bhakti will start. Okay, so we'll close there for today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.